So I am being recorded right now. Right, so we are going to look at the extract in three parts, okay, splitting it into three parts. So we're going to look at the tramps, the wanderers, as a group. That is the meaning of collectively. And then we are going to look at the individual tramps, how Orwell portrays them, and finally, the doctor. All right, so let's go on. Now we shall look at the writer's effect. How are we going to write our answer? Yes, I know, right? Like it's moving all the time. Okay, so writer's effects. I'm going to use the color blue for the quotations. And I'm going to use the color red to highlight the verbs used. Now, I want to emphasize the tense that you ought to use for writer's effect. So you need to use the present tense throughout, except for the verb that you quote from the passage. Otherwise, you need to change everything into the present tense. When I mark your work from last week, I have found that almost every one of you here has got fluctuation of tenses. Many of you hover between present and past tense. And that is so difficult to read. And it's really going to jeopardize your marks because you cannot keep the tense consistent. So be aware of what tense should you use when you are doing writer's effects. Writer effects ask about your opinion. Yes, it's an opinionated question. So it asks for your opinions. Because of that, you really need to use the present tense. And for the verbs, okay, let's say, for example, like the woman who fell to earth, okay, the disaster has happened. Yes, it's true. But then when you are giving your opinion, you should still use the present tense. Like, for example, she falls at lightning speed, okay, from the sky. She falls. Instead of saying she fell. So it would be so strange when you giving your opinion and then you say that it suggests that how she fell at lightning speed, from the sky. So you really need to write everything in the present tense. It's just like writing a book or a movie review, okay? So use the present tense, except for the verb that you copy from the paragraph. So let's take a look at this. So you want to talk about, no, you weren't either.
So that means every time you haven't eaten yet.
No, you just leave a little bit for me will do. Okay, sorry. Now, remember that you can quote a sentence. You can talk about and the effect that sentences could create, along with punctuation marks. So when you quote a sentence, then you need to bear in mind that 7 words, okay, the maximum words that most teachers say that, oh, you shouldn't quote more than 7 words. But then this would hardly be the case if you are talking about a sentence, isn't it? So a sentence very often has got more than 7 words. So I just want you to bear in mind that you can talk about how a sentence is presented, what is found in a sentence, like, for example, this particular one. So the extract opens with the emotive sentence. Now, this sentence is emotive. That means it creates strong emotion in the reader. So we call it emotive sentence. Oh, I shouldn't use blue. Okay, so I'm going to use purple. All right. So we are looking at the tramps collectively. This is for A, yeah? I forgot to write that. So this is for A. We are talking about the tramps, the wanderers, collectively. So we say the extract opens with the emotive sentence, naked and shivering, and then we use an ellipsis to replace the number of words, okay, that we need to write, and then we write the last words of the sentence passage. Remember this one. This is the sentence that we are talking about. Now, this sentence is really emotive, okay? It evokes great empathy in the reader. So you want to explain why is that so, okay? So we continue. And another thing I like to say is, when you are writing about the number of words, the number of adjectives, for instance, here, the 2 adjectives, okay? The 2 adjective, please spell the word. Do not write 2 like this, okay? Do not write the digit. Instead, you need to spell it, okay? The 2 adjectives, spell out the number, okay? So that's another thing I like to highlight. Yes, because I think one of you here, okay, you actually know 2 or 3 of you here actually use a number instead of the word, okay? Please spell it out. So the 2 adjectives, which 2 adjectives? Naked, shivering. These are the adjectives, yes? So the 2 adjectives that open. See, the sentence open with this adjective, right? Naked, shivering. These are the adjectives. And then another thing you need to bear in mind is the subject and verb agreement. So the subject is the 2 adjectives. Notice that this is plural. So you need to use base form verb, open. So you can't use opens because 2 adjectives, all right? So be careful with subject verb agreement. Now, if you know that they are adjectives, please use the correct terminology. Call them adjective. Don't say words, all right? They are adjectives. So use this knowledge, apply it. So the 2 adjectives that open the sentence. Okay, I'll wait till you finish writing first. Now, another thing I want to highlight is from last week's homework, I see some of you use the word connotations, connote. Very good. However, after the word connotations, you need to use of. You need the preposition of. There's one of you here who constantly uses the word to, which is wrong. Okay, please do not use the word to. It's wrong. The correct preposition that follows connotations is of. Okay, so make sure you don't fall into the same trap again. Otherwise, it will become part of you. You will be learning the mistake again and again because you have been repeatedly using connotations to. All right, it's actually connotations of. All right. So the two adjectives that open the sentence, that means naked, shivering, have connotations of, that means they suggest. Have connotations of means they suggest. Okay, they suggest what? Defenselessness. These tramps, these homeless people, these wanderers, they could not defend themselves. So defenselessness is one word, is a noun. And there are so many syllables here. And powerlessness. They do not have any power to ask for their rights. So naked, shivering. Now, being naked in front of so many people is a huge humiliation, isn't it? Can you imagine you yourself being naked and being inspected by someone? And then you can be seen by everybody there in the workhouse, along the passageway, at the corridor, in the walkway. How humiliating this is. And it's really cold. And you are shivering, you are naked. So you are defenseless. You cannot defend yourself. I mean, without clothes and everything to cover yourself, you are defenseless. And then you are powerless. You can't even control your body temperature. You are trembling in fear, in cold, in uncertainty. So they have connotations of defenselessness and powerlessness. So you can see these are all present tense verbs. And the fact that they are forced to line up. You use are because you want to keep the tense consistent, and also you are delivering your opinion. So even though it's written in the past tense in the text, okay, you still use the present tense. Don't change it to were, because you see, here we have present tense, all right? And all of a sudden, there is a past tense here. Then you will be penalized for not being able to keep the tense consistent. So be very, very careful about this. I'm sorry, I need to turn off my... Yeah, I need to turn off my camera because the connection isn't very stable. Can you all hear me? Can? Okay, good. Because for a while I thought I was disconnected. Can hear. Okay, good. Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, now this is a very long sentence, isn't it? This is a very long sentence. There are 53 words in this sentence. Yes, it's a whopping 53 word sentence. Now, I would have to caution you, when writing such a long sentence, you need to be very, very careful of the verbs as well as the clauses used in it. Otherwise, either some of the main verbs are missing or the entire sentence sounds too heavy and is difficult to read. Then you would probably ask that, can we write this in 2 or maybe 3 separate sentences? Yes, we can. Let's look at this very long sentence first. So the 2 adjectives that open the sentence have connotations of defenselessness and powerlessness. And the fact that they are forced to line up makes us feel they are being treated more like convicts, criminals, convicts, people who are sentenced to jail. So are being treated more like convicts who are guilty of a crime than individuals who are unable to support themselves because of some kind of hardship. Now, unless you are able to write like this, okay, flawless, without any mistakes, otherwise it would be better for you to break this long sentence into more shorter sentences. For instance, one good place to put a full stop is here. You can actually have a full stop here, okay, if you want to. Now, let's see. If I were to write this in more than one sentence, okay, I could have something like this and put a full stop there. Okay, so it sounds, the 2 adjectives that open the sentence have connotations of defenselessness and powerlessness. You can actually put a full stop here. Then, obviously, you can go on with the fact that then you continue like this. The fact that they are forced to line up makes us feel they are being treated more like convicts who are guilty of a crime than individuals who are unable to support themselves because of some kind of hardship. You can write like this. Both are fine. So I'll just copy this and put it in chat room so that you can copy paste it into your Word file if you have one opened right now. Okay, so now we move on. So what does this mean? You can add further by saying, now you can call the workhouses as institutions. So this suggests that the institutions that have been set up to help the tramps lack compassion. So instead of offering them care and support, so you must know that the word them here, the pronoun them here refers to the tramps. Okay. So instead of offering them care and support, the workhouses seem to humiliate them. Be careful how you spell government. There's a letter N here. Oops, sorry. There's a letter N here. So what effect does this have on the reader? Okay, so the reader would immediately be encouraged to empathize with the tramps and feel angry at the government that set up institutions such as whites. I mean, making these people naked, okay, and shiver in the cold, or in fear, or in humiliation. All right, let's take a very short break and then we come back for more writer's effect. I'll see all of you at 8:35 p.m. Resume recording. Yeah, resume recording for Elise. Okay, so we have quoted one example that is the very first sentence, which is very emotive and how it affects the reader. Okay, next we move on to another quotation, another example, how Orwell, the writer, creates empathy in the reader. So the next one is obviously a metaphor, which is here. These tramps are described or are compared to wild dogs, yeah? Curs. Wild dogs. Ruinous, degenerate curs. Yeah? This one. So that's an adjective. It means crippling, devastating. So to summarize, the condition of the wild dogs, okay, are terrible, devastating, okay? Degenerate, the word is almost self-explanatory, isn't it? So it's like degraded, it's not in good condition, okay? It's like rotting, yeah? So we want to talk about that. You can use a discourse marker. For example, next, okay, to show a smooth transition from what you have said earlier and the next one, all right? So the tramps, who are human beings, are now compared to something that are not humans, okay? They are dehumanized. Their humane, okay, is stripped off through the metaphor, and you use inverted commas, okay, or quotation marks. And you need to explain what it means, okay? So which suggests So this metaphor, yeah, suggests that the tramps are closer to wild dogs than human beings. Now, comparing the tramps, the homeless people to curs, wild dogs, also suggests, okay, that wild dog is more naturally aggressive because they have been rejected by mankind. You know, when people see wild dogs, they throw stones at it, they shoo it away. So wild dogs learn that human beings are unkind to them, in fact, violently cruel to them. So when the writer compares tramps, okay, these tramps in general, to wild dogs, it also implies the fact that these tramps, because they are rejected by society, they are rejected by the government, they are not being taken care of. They could, brew anger and great dissatisfaction within them. Okay. So they learn to be inappreciative. Yep. So they harbor this sort of ungratefulness in them. It has got that connotations too. So the metaphor that compares the tramps, who are human beings, to wild dogs, okay, have got that hidden implication that the tramps themselves, they harbor this ungrateful feeling in them because society has rejected them. Society has treated them cruelly, ignoring their needs, ignoring their voices. So, in return, we as the reader, when we read this passage, we feel guilty. We ask ourselves, how many times have we ignored beggars? Waving them off, ignoring them, averting our eyesight, yeah, when they approach us, or shooting them disgusted looks, yeah. So this makes the reader feel guilty. And then we would reflect on our own behavior. Are we like that too? Do we like shun away from these homeless people? I mean, these people are often poor, okay? So there are two examples here already, and we need a third one. Of course, there is always more than three, but for the exam, you need to choose three that you could best explain their effects. So So here we have an abstract noun. Rottenness. I used the wrong color. Sorry. Should be purple. You can see the word rottenness here. Sorry. Rottenness. So lastly, the abstract noun rottenness makes the reader feel these tramps are dying inside. What am I writing? So it makes the reader feel the tramps are dying inside, the abstract noun rottenness. So it's like a piece of meat that is past its sell by date. So in return, heightening our empathetic feelings towards them. So there we go. We have 3 examples here. We can intentionally focus on one word, rottenness. It doesn't always have to be a phrase. It could be a word, a single word, as long as it has got a lot of potential, okay, to suggest an effect in the reader. So this is a writer effect to talk about the tramps as a collection, or to talk about the tramps collectively. And then we can look at individual tramps. That means instead of every one of them, we can focus on the ones that Orwell pinpoint particularly. So looking at individual tramps. So let's look at the extract here. Individual tramps. Who are they? For example, 2 men wearing trusses. Yeah. And then another one is the old mummy-like creature of 75. So these are individual tramps we are looking at. So there are 2 of them. They wear trusses because they have got underlying sickness. And then another one is 75 years old and he looks like a mummy. All right. So decayed. Yeah. So what could you say about them? So shifting from the group of tramps to individuals. So it has the focus of the camera being zoomed in to give the reader a close-up view. So the phrase, two men were wearing trusses, could be a metaphor that highlights the ineffectiveness of the spike, the workhouse. Then you need to explain what a truss is. Now, wearing a truss, that padded belt, okay, may ease the pain temporarily because the organ is touching the abdomen in such a way that it sort of like swells out of it, and it gives a feeling of like something is about to fall, you know, it's like drooping. So one wears this truss, okay, this padded belt just to support it, okay, it's like to prevent that drooping feeling, to ease the pain. But then it doesn't get to the root of the problem, does it? So we want to say that the spike may offer temporary help, okay, as to give them shelter, but it doesn't take away the problems of the tramps forever or for good. Likewise means similarly. Likewise, similarly. So you see, it's on a daily basis, okay? The availability of work and bed, all right? So this sort of support is only temporary, all right? It's not permanent. A septuagenarian is refer to people who are in their 70s. Remember, it talks about that 75-year-old man earlier in the text, in the extract. So when the writer zooms in on the septuagenarian, we are shocked that such an old man is in this position. So this creates pathos for him. So it's rather tragic, isn't it? So this creates pathos for him. That means we feel that this is such a tragedy, like uh, a man, someone in their 70s, they still have no peace of mind. They still have to wander the streets, worrying whether there's a place for them to sleep, whether there is food for them to eat. So this creates pathos for him. So here we have a simile, mummy-like creature. So it gives the reader an impression that this 75-year-old man, okay, he is more dead than alive. Such a devastating condition. So this is how the writer George Orwell, okay, evokes empathy in the reader. Then the last one is about the doctor. This will be your homework. You can start your writer's effect for this particular one, the doctor like this, okay? You can take it down and then the rest is up to you. I mean, when we see the fact that there is a doctor, pacing along the passageway, looking at the trams up and down would be good, okay? What's with like they are receiving treatments and that their conditions may be better, all right? I mean, that's initially what people would think. Having a doctor is good. Then you can use a dash line to say, why is it a good thing? Okay. So you can say perhaps now these tramps, okay. Okay, so from here, okay, you will have your quotation, your explanation. So you need to continue from here. And now let's look at your homework from last week. Okay, if you are ready, let's look at this. So looking at paragraph 2, you are asked to talk about, explain, all right, how effects are achieved when the writer provides a description of how the plane meets with its doom. All right, now many of you use lurching and bumping. Very good. Now they are gerunds, right? They are actions. Okay, they talk about how the plane is experiencing this tremendous difficulty staying flying in a balanced way, flying in a straight line, okay, or flying smoothly in the air. So that's lurching and bumping. So a lot of hiccups and cough. Okay. So it definitely shows great worries about where the engines of the plane, yeah, the engines of the plane are malfunction. Yes. So that's something that you would need to show in your answer. Then another one is the word catastrophic. Catastrophic. Yeah. This is an adjective. So if you know it is an adjective, you should use the word adjective rather than words. Yeah. And then another one that describes how the plane meets with its doom is like lightning. Okay. A bolt of lightning hit one of the fuel tanks and tore the right wing off. Okay. Now, you can choose a bolt of lightning, or you can choose tore the right wing off. Now, if you compare these two, I would say this is really much stronger in comparison. Okay, tore the right wing off, especially tore, which is such a powerful verb. Yes, Janelle, goodbye. Okay, so now lurching and bumping. I will not give you the in a paragraph form, but I will give you some suggestion. Okay, so lurching and bumping. Okay. So what can be said here is, why am I writing A? So if this is one of the examples that you could that you are using, lurching and bumping. I wouldn't use the word words, but this is really a phrase. Yes, and they are sort of like verbs. Okay, you can call them verbs. All right, so you can say verb phrase. All right, it's a verb phrase, and they are powerful verbs because they create this visual imagery, isn't it? That you could see and you could feel. All right, the jolt, the sudden jolt, the abruptness of this strong jolt, okay, in you. So you could like put yourself in their shoes there. Yes. So they are really powerful because they have got visual imagery. All right. And you could feel, yes, you could feel the sudden jolts. All right. The sudden jolts. Or violent. They are violent. The sudden and violent jolts resulting from malfunction engines on the plane. Okay, so that's the first sign of the doom, isn't it? Okay, so these are the first signs of the first sign to the doom or to the disaster, you can say. So you want to talk about this, all right? And it's really scary, yes? So it creates great worries in the reader, like, well, will the plane fall? Yeah. I mean, when you are flying, this is the worst thing that you want to experience. Yeah, creates great worries. So it's flying unsteadily. So that you need to talk about this if you choose lurching and bumping. Yeah, it's flying unsteadily. That's sudden and violent jolts. Okay, this visual imagery that you want to talk about. Yeah, so it's the first sign to the disaster. And then the next thing is that adjective. So this is an adjective. If you know it is an adjective, make sure you say it. So what if you say it's like the end of the world? Really good. I like it. This catastrophic, all right? It's just like the end of the world. Great suffering, extreme, unfortunate or unsuccessfulness or something like that. So it has the connotations of the end of the world. Yeah. Which means this disaster or whatever that's happening to the engine or to the plane is irreversible. That's another thing you can talk about. So it refers to, that bolt of lightning is deadly. Then the next one is tore the right wing off. So this is a phrase with a powerful verb. So tore is a powerful verb. It's like with one single flourish action, okay, the plane is ruined. So with a single flourish, the plane is utterly ruined. That's something you could say. And then the synecdoche. Yeah. The plane is reduced to just the right wing. Yeah. The plane is reduced to only one part, that is the right wing. So you can talk about how it's being dismembered. And calamity, okay, it says gloom, which is helpless. You can't do anything about it. So it talks about, it also suggests that everyone on the plane, everyone on board would die. So it implies an imminent death for all on board. So here we have 3 examples. Okay, I know it's way past time. It's 9:26. We will stop here. And next week, there is no lesson. I'll see you in October. And in October, we will continue with paragraph 5 on the writer's effect. And then we will move on from there. Okay, so remember to do your homework, just that particular writer's effect on the doctor. Okay, goodbye and good night, everyone.